my mascot, for speaking. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you for being here again for part 2 of our meal planning and how to cook with a CSA chair with Chef Curtiss Hemm from the Carriage House. For those who are joining us on the live stream, we are here in person at the Keysville Pharmacy. And my name is Kim. I'm from ADK Action. I'm our food security project manager. And one of our projects is our pharmacy project with an F at the Keysville Pharmacy with a PH, where we have local foods available here in their storefront. And we're here tonight with this event as part of our fair food pricing program, which is new. This last year we've been working to really take the energy and success from our emergency food packages project, which I think a lot of us have heard about, and turn it into a more long-standing program, and how to kind of help low and middle income folks access fresh local foods in their communities at an affordable price. So one of the things that we're doing with fair food pricing is we created a fair food pricing fund to subsidize the cost of local foods. So for eligible families, they can get 30% off local foods at the pharmacy, we're at farmers markets. And one thing that we're also piloting is with, we have CSA shares. So we have a program with more than 20 families this season to participate in the community-supported agriculture farm shares, which is a season-long share, about 20 weeks. You pick up your farm share every week. And so we put this together to try to help people just learn how to cook with it. And so the 2 farms that we partnered with this season are White Rainbow in Peru, which we saw their share last session. And then this week we will have Tangleroot Farm Share, which is in Essex, New York, and we'll unpack it, see what's in there. And they actually fully sponsored the shares that we have. So 13 families got shares from Tangleroot that were either sponsored by, big shout out to Tangleroot Farm for that. So they either, had full paying share members, sponsored shares, or they had the donation from the farm itself too. So we didn't have to dip into our fair food pricing fund at all for that. So that was really huge. So we're excited here to be with part 2. And also this second part of our cooking class, I'd be remiss if I did not give a shout out to Kim G, who was our intern who actually coordinated all this. And unfortunately she can't be here, but she did a great job putting it together. And special thanks to Dan and Curtiss and Phil Trents for being here, but I will actually hand it over to Dan to introduce and give a more thorough thank you to everyone who made this possible.
Perfect. So again, Dan Bosley from Keysville Pharmacy, both with the PH and the F. Thanks, Kim. It really is a privilege and an honor to be able to do this, to do it live and in person is spectacular for those of you who know me. This is how I like to interact. So yes, huge thank yous. CDPHP again, a big sponsor, the main sponsor of this education piece of our fair food pricing. And for those of you who aren't aware, I'm going to tie it just a little bit closer together. The fair food pricing literally gets local farm fresh food into the hands of those people who can't otherwise afford it. Which is pointless if we don't show how to utilize those products and that produce. And that's what this cooking class and the last cooking class was all about. So both of those pieces are vital, and the third vital piece is being able to offer it at a convenient location, which is here in the store. So big thank you to CDPHP. I also want to take a minute right now to also thank Clinton County Health Department and JCEO, neither of which did any sponsorship for tonight's programming, but have been key sponsors in me bringing this farmers market project to Cornerstone Drug in Rouse's Point. Very, very, very generous in funding for coolers, for products, for bulk food bins. So huge thank you to Clinton County Health Department, huge thank you to JCEO. So now I will turn it over to Chef Curtiss and to Barrett, who are both here again this week, and we'll put on a great lesson for all of us. So thank you, and Charlie from Grow Trends, always a pleasure to see you. Super work.
Thank you.
Nice, thank you, Dan. All right, so welcome. I'm joined tonight by Barrett Miller from Barrett Miller Nutrition. We're just going to jump in down the road a little bit and talk about some of the health benefits of local food, in particular, fresh and vibrant local food. I'm going to take it from a completely culinary standpoint. So that's going to be my approach, is to kind of navigate how you would process a farm share. Kind of, it's the daily mindset of a chef. You go in, you triage, you do certain things, and you figure out how to process and turn something raw into something good. And I don't necessarily mean cook. So we've got online. I don't know if these are in the comments. Kim, are these in the comments?
Yeah, we'll drop
All right, so they're going to be dropped in the comments, the packet for today. And you've got in that packet, well, this one has my name on it, so it's completely mine, right? You've got just a couple like little tactical sheets here, just kind of how I approach a CSA share. I've also put it up on the board here. And then this should be cleaning and storage tips for your share, based on root vegetable, or based on vegetable type, I should say, or leafy green type. Doesn't always have to be a vegetable. And then I put in there a menu planning template, because that's, I think, very key to processing a share, is what are you going to do with it. And then there's a bunch of recipes. And then in the very back, there are some nutritional aspects from Barrett, in terms of what's the nutritional side of this whole thing. Because I do think it is important. I think, as Dan said, we want to focus on local food, but the F in the pharmacy, there's a reason for that. And if you can feed yourself nutrition and not take it in a pill, that's a good thing too. So I think that's the mindset and the paradigm that Dan comes at this from. And I think that's really critical. So, and I think fresh food is healthy food. So we're just going to approach it from there. So I'm going to kind of go over a couple different things. I got a couple notes here. 3 main goals of tonight is one, how to sort and macro navigate a farm share. So understanding what a farm share is. I actually went down to Tango Roots this morning, took a look at the farm, grabbed a share, came back, and we're going to show what that is. I want to talk about storage and prep, right? So how do you prep a farm share? How do you get it ready for the fridge? And how do you make your life easier down the road in the 7-day cycle, okay? And then finally, cook something, learn something new. And I'm going to introduce a book to you called Culinary Artistry. And for those that don't know it, it's on our website. You can get it on Amazon. But this is a book that I used to have all of my culinary students get. And we're all limited by experiences. And if you get an ingredient and you don't know how to use it, like today we're going to have shishito peppers, and you don't know what a shishito pepper is, you're stuck, right? You don't know if it's hot, you don't know if it's spicy, you don't know if it's sweet. You really need to understand. And this book is all about pairings and perfect pairings. So it's a fantastic book for people who are just getting into cooking, even seasoned pros. This book is fantastic. So those are the 3 things. And then the nutrition side of that is probably the 4th goal I would add. So we really want to understand the nutritional side of this. And so we're going to go there. So I'm going to grab a share and jump right into this, okay? So I have a cooler. And this, my friends, is a Tango Root farm share. It's like one of those unboxing videos, right? I mean, it just feels like it. It's like, okay, we're going to product test this too today, okay? So this is a farm share. This is what you get for a 7-day tour of duty, if you will. We have in here some beautiful Swiss chard. This is absolutely gorgeous. A lot of things I can tell about this, and I'll get into this just a touch later, but you can see how vibrant and fresh that stem is, right? And the second shot is, it's so hydrated. There's so much moisture in that. And you can just tell by looking at this. This was picked this morning. It smells amazing. It's awesome. Okay, so that's Chard. In here, what else do we have? We've got a couple tomatoes. Really nice, ripe tomatoes. I like to see the cracks on the tops. That, for me, is, I don't like things to look perfect. I like to see that this is ripening. Again, we just talked about why fruit ripens, why a tomato ripens. And it's to soften up the flesh so the seeds can come out. And that's why we just happen to like food at a ripe stage. So we got a couple tomatoes. We got Bugs Bunny's favorite. A beautiful bunch of gorgeous, heavy, dense carrots. I mean, these things are fresh as can be. And the greens are beautiful. They're vibrant. There's no softness in that. You can just tell by looking at them. how vibrant they are. A couple cucumbers. I like these more than seedless English cucumbers. I love the flavor of farm fresh cucumber. Not only great in food, but great in a cocktail. Just saying. Those who know me know I love a good cocktail. So
Any of those here tonight?
no. Garlic. So these are called gem lettuces, and I asked why they were called gem lettuces because I've never referred to anything as a gem lettuce, but it's because they look like little gems, or little gems of lettuce. So just 2 nice little heads of lettuce, and then a mystery bag, right?
Ooh.
Shishito peppers, incredibly fresh, incredibly vibrant, pretty amazing stuff right there. So this is a farm share, right? And so things that I think would take people a little bit to figure out what to do with would be the chard and the shishito peppers, right? So now you're like, okay, I've got my farm share. Now what? What do I do? How do I process this? How do I look at this for longevity during the week? How do I look at this to ease my life down the road? And then how do I prep and store it? Like, because putting this in your fridge takes up a lot of room, right? They have to be refrigerated, right? But that takes up a lot of room. It's like buying 4 leeks because leeks were 99 cents, right? That takes up a lot of room. So you have to learn how to process that and break it down. Everything else is pretty much the chard. I would also say is also bulky. So these 2 things is pretty much a produce drawer. So we have to learn how to kind of look at this. So my goal here is to look at this and say, okay, what do I want to tackle first? So what are the things that are going to wilt or deteriorate first and foremost? These little gems will not be so gemmy if we don't take care of them. Okay, so I have a rule about lettuce. I don't like to wash lettuce until just before use. Okay, because I think 2 things can happen. One, I think you can introduce bacterial growth, and I think you can rot it from the inside out. If anyone's ever bought commercial arugula or anything else like that, you open it up and it has that funk to it. I just did an event last night and I bought 2 things of microgreens. Dead center of the microgreens, they were rotten. So they should be washed just before you need to use them. So these, I would just put in a paper bag or a plastic bag. So I'll take my lemons, because we don't grow lemons in the Adirondacks. So lemons are not part of your CSA share.
Not yet.
So for me, I would take this and I would grab a paper towel. And I have my paper towel somewhere. Where did I put my paper towels? I had that in a bucket. It is the mist. I'll take those. Thank you. These are not my paper towels, but these are the pharmacy's paper towels. That's how generous they are. So I'm going to dampen the paper towel really quick. I'm going to wring it out. So you just want a little bit of moisture on there. So it's not dripping, it's not too wet, and you basically just want to take your lettuce, wrap it like so, tuck it into a bag, and then I like to fold it over and then just kind of twist it. So you want to minimize the amount of air in the bag and also minimize the storage space like that. All right. Now, if you want to go ahead and use this, so let's say you want to make this and use it, I would go, I have a couple bowls of fresh water. I'm going to cut my lettuce right above the core. And I'm going to take and I'm going to put my leaves in the water. These are pretty clean, so I'm not anticipating a large amount of debris coming from that. And then don't be afraid to peel back. So this one has a little bit of a core going up it. And then however far you want to go. Like so. So those just soak. And the whole goal is here, they're going to float when they're done. And we're going to come and we're going to scoop, agitate our greens a little bit, and we're going to let the dirt sink to the bottom. And we're going to scoop and grab our lettuce and dry it. Okay, we're going to use a salad spinner for that, but I want that to soak for a bit, and I want the dirt to come off of that. Now, it's perfectly acceptable if you have time in the morning before you go to work and you want to do this part in the morning, right? And then store it for evening, that's fine. If you want to do it the day before, that's fine. But I wouldn't do this and then use it 3 days later. 24 hours I think is a good marker, okay? So I'm going to let that kind of sit for a bit. As far as cucumbers go, I like to take just a paper towel and just kind of wipe them off. Now these I do not believe are coated with anything. So this is a fresh cucumber right out of the garden. It's not the same as a grocery store cucumber, okay? This isn't sealed to prevent moisture loss. So these are going to probably within a few days start to be softer than they are. But the goal is to keep the skin on as long as possible. There's also a nutritional side of that, which Barrett will get into later on. So it depends on the use as far as I'm concerned for keeping the skin on during preparation or not. So for me, the same thing, wrap in plastic. So, and again, another plastic bag, put it in the fridge, take as much air out of the bag. And what you're doing is any aspiration or any release of moisture is kept and contained within the bag, and it can absorb it back in.
What was the last class so that you left the air pocket? I can't remember. You wanted.
Oh, the herbs.
Yeah, it was basil, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So I don't know if I brought basil in or not tonight.
Herbs keep the air pocket versus vegetables.
It depends what it is. It depends on the type of herb that's there. So herbs come from shrubs, and so rosemary, thyme, sage. Those are different than basil, tarragon, cilantro, things like that. So it varies on what it is.
Does it matter how aromatic it is or not?
I would always say how soft the leaves are. So shrub herbs are very hardy.
Yeah.
So think thyme and rosemary and things like that, and rosemary, and then basil is not. Basil can turn in a day, even if it was fresh picked.
Right. Now,
So-
with the cucumbers, you don't wrap those in a moist paper towel, do you?
No, just put them in a plastic bag.
Okay.
And again, try to reuse as much of your plastic as you can. I mean, because it is plastic, and that's just a big thing. One, from a cost standpoint, it's expensive. A Ziploc bag is an incredibly expensive investment. So, from my point of view, same thing here with the tomatoes. The exception is I don't refrigerate tomatoes. Now, I did see something somewhere challenging that position, but I think tomatoes, and again, I'm just kind of cleaning a tomato, wiping it off. This is almost the same thing I would do with a mushroom, right? So I'm just going to wipe that off, and then that's ready to sit in a bowl on a countertop and good to go. So I do not refrigerate my tomatoes. I don't like them cold. That's just personal.
I don't like to buy tomatoes in the store if they have been refrigerated.
No, and I think the flavor changes. It's
Right.
kind of like
It
I don't like
kills the flavor
refrigerated
from
rice.
What I had heard, it's like it sort of stops the flavor production.
So with a lot of things, I don't know if it stops or just halts, right?
Right.
So like anything in the refrigerator is kind of, in the French terms, it's retarded. It's slowed down, right? That's not a politically correct term. Just saying. So like a retarded dough is a dough that's cold fermented, and that's great. It's still alive and it's still happening, right? But it just takes its time, from point A to point B. So I always, if it is a tomato in a refrigerator, I always bring it out a couple hours ahead of time and temper it. That's a big thing for me, is I just don't want to eat a cold tomato. Garlic is as is. That's how we store it. Okay. So cucumbers, shishito, I would probably just take and throw right in some water. Just let them soak for a few minutes, and then take a paper towel, drain them, and go right into a plastic bag. And again, if you don't want to use a plastic bag and you have glass containers with lids, that's fine too. Like whatever, we just want to stop the oxidation process and minimize that. And again, everything that I wash, I always scoop out. And you could use, if you didn't want to use your hands, if you didn't have a hand washing, you could use a pair of tongs or something like that. But I always bring food out with my hands, and because all dirt sinks. So dirt is heavy and it sinks. So let's take a look at our lettuce. We'll do this in a couple batches. So I'm kind of shaking this off as I bring it out. And what I should do here, I should just put that right in the salad spinner. Yes, this thing that sits in your cupboard and you have no idea what to do with it, this is what it's for.
I use my
Right.
salad spinner all the time.
I use it for herbs a lot.
I saw a recipe somewhere the other day where they're trying to take seeds out of tomatoes using a salad spinner.
Really? It
Oh,
work?
that's cool.
Yep.
That's a good idea.
Yep.
And then I like to hit the brake.
Slicing them and then putting them in
I
the
love
salad
that.
spinner and you seeds will come out.
It's like Wheel of Fortune, but no fortune. Right? So,
As a fortune.
right. So this is how much water comes out of your greens. This is what would dilute your vinaigrette. This is what causes it to rot. And we don't stop at one spin. We zhoosh it around, right? And we go back for a second. Did we get the $1 million jackpot? Of course not. And again, more water. So now take a look at that water. Look at all the dirt that went in there. That would have been our salad. Now I don't necessarily think dirt is bad for you. I'm not going to sit there and eat a plate of it, right? But at the same point, dirt is dirt. So now these greens are beautifully dry. So for me, I just kind of align them so that when you wrap them, you're not crushing them. And they keep their same character, shape, and direction. And you don't have to be too crazy with it.
Now would you do that with like radicchio?
Yep, I actually have some of that with me too. So then again, it's slightly damp based on the greens being slightly damp. And then we're just gonna roll that over. We're not gonna crush it, we're just gonna roll it over, go right into our bag. And that's how I would store lettuce. So I would take it.
And you said to store it like that no more than 3 days?
So I think this, the way I've done it right now, I'd get 3 days out of it.
Okay.
But I think if I did anything more than that, I run the risk of having it lose, right? Because it's still, when it has the core on it, it's still a living entity. You know, it's going to be looking for stuff for food. So that's how I would store that. So the cucumbers, the peppers are done. The lettuce is done. That leaves us with two things left. We've got the carrots. So for me, I'm cutting the carrot tops off. Nothing against the comedian, but I'm going right in here and I'm going to wash those in here. Now the carrot tops are very interesting. So here's a great little trick. This works with parsley and this works with most herbs that are long and bushy. I'm going to turn this and I'm going to fold it in and of itself, and all I smell right now is carrot from this. And I'm going to take my knife at a very sharp angle and I'm going to turn this. Right, that's the $1 million tip right there. So that works with parsley. So if you want to make tabbouleh, you can. This you can make. You can use it for a stock. You can rinse it off. You can do whatever you want. But for me, I'm just mostly discarding that. Now I have all these carrot fronds that are great for salad. They're great for a lot of things. They go in. We treat them just like a lettuce.
I didn't know you could eat the carrot.
Yep. So a lot of people are making pestos out of these now,
Oh, all right.
trying to maximize them. You
Oh,
can use
good.
them in stir fries.
Any in drinks?
I haven't made any drinks with it yet. No.
Just check.
Like a Bloody Mary.
I was just going to think like
That would be great.
Yum.
yeah.
Yeah.
You can tell I've had a lot of drinks with
Pull that end out of the garbage for me, Curtis.
I'll give you these right here. So yeah, so this is just kind of, but you can see now the dirt that comes out of here. So that water is pretty dirty. So we may want to wash this 2 or 3 times, you know, because this is, so when it rains, this is above the ground, right? And this is where the dirt's going to collect, is on these leaves. But that's a great use for this, is to add it. So I like to add parsley to salads, flat leaf parsley, and this would be like adding flat leaf parsley to a salad, but with a carrot flavor. So, and I highly recommend not using a tablecloth when you're prepping your CSA share. Just saying. Little things to avoid. All right, wipe that off. And now we're going to get into this last one. So this is the chard. I'm actually going to hold off on that. I'm going to go back here to the carrots. So here, I just want to kind of rinse these. I would run these under running cold water. I don't have a sink facing you, so I can't really do that. So I'm just going to kind of agitate and get rid of as much of that as possible. And then pull out a couple.
I'm assuming since you left the green tops on, you're going to use them in whatever
Possibly.
you-
They stay fresher like this.
Okay.
So there's no need to cut them off. Now you have to look at this too. So there's preservation and then there's functional use aspects of this. So having a share means you're going to eat it, and most people work 5 days a week, so you get a share maybe on a Friday or something, or maybe like my shares come on Thursday. So I have to prep mine Thursday night, and usually Thursday I'm busy. So I've got to move on that and be ready. And I probably won't touch, because of my work schedule, I probably won't touch my share until Sunday night. So I have to prep it, preserve it, and then I make it ready for my family to eat while I'm working. So
I have a question about zucchini.
Yep.
Does that get stored in the refrigerator or on the counter?
always refrigerator for me.
Okay.
Yep. So
You
again,
wa-
so
you
take a
wash
look.
it first.
Take a look at the dirt in this. So that was clear water, right? So that's why we wash vegetables. And so all of that stuff, not that it's unhealthy, but this is the best thing, man. I love having this here.
Yeah, great addition, right?
It's huge. So again, now we have clean vegetables. Now, for me, I'm going to tell you that on the carrot, and I've approached this in the packet. For a thin-skinned carrot like this, you don't necessarily have to peel it. But if you know you're going to use this Wednesday and it's Sunday and you're not doing anything right now, then by all means, peel your carrot and store it peeled so you can use it. If you're going to put it into a stir fry, I strongly recommend not cutting it until it's time to actually use it. But at least half of the most unsavory part of the job is done. And so on this too, you actually want to be able to taste something. So you want to taste it. And that's full of sugar. It's beautiful. It's fresh. It's a wonderful carrot. So it'll make the haul. But if you
before you guys are closing,
if you want to use this
one of our nurses
down the road, by all
called
means,
earlier.
peel it. And it saves you time. If you're going to do like a braised carrot or something, again, two different answers. If time is your issue, if you're time poor, then go ahead and cut it and have that packaged up for you, right? But there's a cost to that. So there's a nutritional checkoff of that. And don't be afraid to throw that little bit in there. And if you're freaky about that little bit of dirt soil contact, you can always come through and clean that off. But that's a lot of, I would eat that as is.
Nutritionally, I thought, I was always told that you leave the skin on and you just scrub it well because most of the vitamins are in the skin.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a question for Barrett.
You can, yeah, and that's the case. And I will tell you.
Wait and go over it one round.
No, we'll answer that, but I will tell you from a culinary standpoint,
It doesn't look
in the French world, you don't do that.
right.
You don't do that.
Okay.
So the French trained chef in me says no. No. Barrett can answer that now.
So the best way is to leave the skin on, not to peel it, because that's the part that has the most fiber and the most nutrients. So it is best to leave it unpeeled. Definitely just wash it, like you said, in cold water. And while we're here, keeping it whole is also the best option because it locks in those water-soluble nutrients within the vegetable, all those juices. And he said it was super sugary and, juicy, and I guess not juicy, but you know what I mean. Like
It was hydrated.
hydrating. That was word. Yeah, that's all those water-soluble nutrients that leach out into the dish or whenever you're cooking it. And if it's whole, that wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
Is it pretty much the same with a potato?
Yeah,
Yep.
I would say with any vegetable, yeah, it's best to keep it whole, because the outer layer of a vegetable has all that fiber and all those nutrients, and it almost locks. It's almost like a seal for those water soluble nutrients on the inside.
It's the vegetable skin.
Yeah.
Is there any vegetable skin you can think of that you would not want to eat?
There was one that I had in mind that I was going to talk about
I
today.
know radishes and peppers
They're all
and,
good.
you know, you can eat those.
I think most of them you can eat. If I think of the one that I'll let you know.
Yeah,
if
I
think
don't
of it.
know one that I wouldn't eat. I just, again, you're talking about levels of refinement, right? And it's use case. So not everything is nutritionally oriented. So I don't approach this 100% from nutrition. I thought it was really important to talk about nutrition, which is why I invited Barrett here, right? And I push for that because I think in some cases, in some use cases, the preservation of this from a culinary standpoint are identical and as important from the nutritional standpoint. But sometimes those two goals butt heads. Prime example, I removed the skin.
Right.
Her approach would be different than my approach, right? But from a storage standpoint, there's no doubt that keeping this like this for the longest possible time is what will yield you the best carrot. So when I store these, I take the paper towel and I put it in the bag, in the plastic bag or glass container, whatever you want to use, not getting into the environmental politic of anything, right? So again, that's kind of the goal. So if you want to use it down the road for a quick stir fry, and you know that Wednesday you've got a board meeting, you're not going to get home till 7 o'clock, but you don't want to stop for a 99-cent heart attack, then by all means, this is the better solution, okay? Prepping the vegetable, losing a few of the nutrients, they're still going to be in the bag. You could bring that paper towel out and get some of those somewhere down the road. I actually think this and this makes a great combination with a little bit of this, right? And a little bit of this. That makes for a great saute dish, personally, Zane.
I have a question
Yeah.
about skins.
Yeah.
What about the cucumbers that you get in the store where they have the wax or something on
I
them?
generally peel them.
Peel those.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you asked that. I was gonna say that too. I think part of this discussion has to be based on where we are.
Yeah.
We don't always get
Grocery
farm
store
fresh
bushes.
carrots.
Right.
So I think seasonality wise, that's where I just made it up.
It is. Seasonality is a big deal.
It's a big word for me. You know, I'm funky with carrots out of a bag at the grocery store, like a waxed cucumber. So would definitely peel that. But coming out of a CSA or coming out of my garden, which I don't have this year, previous years,
Right.
would eat it, would brush it off
Right.
and eat it. So I think that has a big impact on
I eat
what
my
people do
cucumber
too.
groceries. I haven't died yet.
So
I
I,
wash it, rinse it. I
Same here. I still eat the skin, but I think it's to your discretion if it makes you feel more comfortable. I don't know exactly about the wax, but I would say to your discretion.
to that though, to Dan's point, not all farms are organic and natural.
Yeah.
Right? Just because it's CSA doesn't mean it grows different than a mega farm. So, in my point of view, I think it goes to, do you know who's farming and how they're farming before I make that judgment call? You know, but generally food at a grocery store, if it's a carrot, if it's a root vegetable, I'm peeling it, just out of a practice. A number one reason I do that is the very first Eating Well magazine I ever got was a story of a lawyer from Washington, D.C. who got hepatitis from a salad at a restaurant. And I never forgot how far they found it. And they actually found the source of that farm where the lettuce came from. And it was the migrant workers and the conditions they lived in. And the migrant worker that picked that lettuce had hepatitis. So this attorney in Washington, D.C. goes for lunch at a restaurant and contracts, a lifelong disease from a salad. So there's reasons to go through and properly prepare and process foods and to know where your food comes from, which is a huge benefit of a CSA, is you have a chance to go look and see, and make an informed purchase.
So one last thing on the carrots, knowing where they're coming from. If you're purchasing them,
Yeah.
will they store like other root vegetables through the fall into the winter? So cool, dry. So
By knowing who they come from, where they come from, I don't know how that varies, but yes.
well,
a
no,
fresh
but if you
local
want to stock
carrot-
up on them, that was my point. If you wanna-
Absolutely, they will store, and they store under sawdust and all sorts of old school farmer's almanac storage things. They all work. We have a root cellar at the farmhouse.
Okay.
We
Yeah.
have the potential of a root cellar. It was always a root cellar. I choose not to use it, because we go through so much food at the Carriage House. I don't have to have food stored up. But yes, if you wanted to. And there's a thing of overwintering carrots in the ground. You know, people throw straw bales over carrots, and then they go and, you know, that ground is not frozen, and they pull up a super sweet, amazing carrot. So you could take and create that. You could buy carrots in bulk and do the same thing. And I truly believe it's under sawdust is the best condition for storing carrots. But yeah, there's all sorts of ways to do that. But that brings us into Farmer's Almanac territory and not Curtiss Hemm chef territory. So anyway, that's the process for the carrot. Is, you know, there's a couple different ways depending on your use for that that you can go. So I want to process this out here. So these are the carrot fronds, right? So a little agitation. We're going to pick up, because they are dirty, I'm going to wash them twice. So I'm going to pick through here, shake it up, because they tend to clump together, and dirt pockets can just kind of sit there. And I'm looking at one right now. And then don't be afraid to get rid of one if it's causing you a situation. And then again, I'm just using my fingers, kind of agitating that, bringing it up and draining it, and then just taking a look at it as I go through. And don't worry about 100% yield. Like, you are processing food, there is some waste involved. You're never going to get away from that. I'm from Iowa roots, and I'm very frugal, but at the end of the day, you know, there's a little bit of waste factor here. If it floats, it's viable. If it sinks to the bottom, it's not. So then I'm going to get rid of this water. All right, so now, back to the salad spinner. Do that here. I'll get a whole bunch of paper towels because this is going to have some moisture to it. Lay that out like so. Great chance to pick. And then the same thing. You don't have to like crank on this, but if you have a kid, you know, it's a fun thing for them to do. Well, they get involved with it, right? Don't be afraid to put that water back in there. Again, here, because of the density, the closeness of the leaves, we want to make sure we get as much water out of here as possible. And so we're going to tell that by how high they sit up. And that's a beautiful pile of carrot greens right there. They're super, super fresh. I guarantee these were picked this morning.
And where did you get them?
This was Tangled. I actually drove down there. Alec and I took a drive down, and it was good.
Where are they located?
Off of Middle Road. So I took Middle Road to the hub on the hill, and then I forget the name of the road. I think it was just 9. They're just past the, or near the Waylandsburg Grange.
Oh,
Down that area.
I was there last week.
So, you know, if you go from Essex and you go up towards the hub on the hill, and then you go past it, and there's that sharp 90.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
just down like 1.5 miles from there.
Okay,
I don't think they're open to the public.
right.
I don't think it's that type of farm. So, but they were gracious enough to allow me to come pick it up and donate another share.
I did pass Hub on the Hill.
Huh?
I did pass Hub on the Hill.
I like Hub on the Hill. So yeah, so this is how I process herbs, the same way. With the exception of basil, I would lightly run basil under water, shake it off, and then gently spin it.
You can eat that raw, those prawns?
Yeah, no different than parsley or anything else.
Okay.
Yep. Tastes like a carrot too.
I don't know why I always heard that there was nothing you could do with carrot.
Now, don't get me wrong; they're strong. They're stronger. You know, there's a flavor to them, but at the same point, if people eat beets and they eat beet greens and things like that, then there's no reason not to use these. So again, when I store this now, I'm coming in and I'm going to take my paper towel and I'm going to make a roulade of carrot greens. Like so. That goes into a plastic bag. Tuck your ends. And that's that. And that's how I store them. So a plastic bag seals up these two ends. Again, same principle. You can even store these together with your lettuce. And those are pretty solid greens, so you don't have to worry about that. And you can push that down a little bit. And so now you have all those carrot prawns and the lettuce in one bag, taking up very little room in your refrigerator. Okay? Where would I use those? I would probably use those in a vinaigrette. I'll probably use them in the vinaigrette I make today. As part of that with some fresh herbs. Something fun and interesting to do with them. Kind of make more of a savory vinaigrette for dressing, if you will. So now we're back to our last ingredient. I'll just take a piece off. So there's two parts of Swiss chard. There's the big rib end, and there are the leaves. So it's pretty easy to process this, and I generally go right down the rib and come out about halfway. And I've got the lion's mane of, right, or the bib of chard. And this is how I process this. So I generally don't wash this until I need it, but I would roll it up and line them up, and then just wash them, because they can be delicate and they can break down a little bit. Now, when it comes to this, I like the rib, very similar to rhubarb, and there's a lot of things that you can do with it. I'm not saying it tastes like rhubarb, but there are a lot of things you can do with this. So you can dice it up and serve it as a garnish. You can make a raw relish with it. You can even make you can add it to chutneys if you wanted to make a chutney, but flavor-wise, it's fantastic. And there's no reason not to use it.
I
So
put mine in stir fries.
yeah, it's a great product. So once you break it down, this would store in the same bag, but I might just kind of break this down a little bit more and get it ready for, like Sharon said, a stir fry, a salad, you name it. So that's how I would process all of these different foods and how I would store them. So when it comes time to eat, that's a little bit of a different thing. The only other thing I would do, sorry on this, I'm just bouncing back, I would cut off the bottom section, and I would make sure that I took a paper towel with a little bit of water. Consider this a fuel sock of a gas tank, right? So this is critically important, in my opinion, for something like this. You want to store that where it can wick up moisture, and so the leaves stay vibrant. Because if you don't, and if you have a damaged leaf like that, just cut it and process it. But if you store it like this, if this is your general tendency, you want to make sure you have a fuel sock of a wet paper towel on, freshly cut, no different than getting flowers from the florist. You want to make sure that you process it out. So you have a damaged piece here, same thing, kind of cut it out, get rid of it. If you compost. You could also peel by hand the chard, and then where it comes off, you know, that's a more fibrous material. You can use that for a variety of different preparations, and this for a variety of different preparations. So I like this in salads, I like it in stir fries, I like it as a green in soups. So
did you wash? You didn't wash that one before you rolled it, though.
no, I don't. So I generally don't wash this one the way that I do others, because of the, sometimes it's so soft and it gets damaged because the greens are so large. So like if we look at this one here in particular, that has the great ability to trap a lot of water in it. It's very hard to spin that dry because of the way the almost looks like a brain, right? So I generally do that last minute. And I think it lasts longer when you take that approach, especially if you do it this way. Now, if you do it this way and you wrap it in paper towels, you're looking at maybe 3 days before you really have to use it. But you really have to make sure you spin that dry. Or roll it, like get a large amount of paper towels, roll it out like the roulade like I did with the carrot tops.
Right, so you don't want to roll it in a damp paper towel, you want to roll it in a dry paper towel.
Depends on how dry
so
you spin
it'll-
it.
Yeah, so it'll absorb
Right.
the moisture.
Most likely, yes, but you don't want it to be in soaking water or standing water. So, so that's how I process those items. A couple other vegetables, things to think about. Herbs. And then it's funny you had mentioned radicchio, because in my farmer's share, I actually asked my farmer to grow radicchio for me. It's one of my favorite things. Radicchio is a head, like an iceberg type of head, but it's these very large leaves on the outside that you tend to lose. They get bruised up, but this head is really important. So I just basically don't do anything with this except rinse it underwater, shake it out, and then I put it into a bag. Sometimes I'll put a paper towel, sometimes I don't. But this is radicchio. It's bitter by nature. It's assertive, but it makes a great complement to a lot of other foods. I like it with those little gem lettuces. So when I saw gem lettuces, I made sure I grabbed this one because I like the way it tastes. And we're going to use that down the road here. This is basil, and this is how I store basil. So I found that the double bag is the best method. So you can put a little bit of damp paper towel in the bottom of this, and again, I would cut this. I mean, you get just this amazing aroma of basil. Put a little bit of damp paper towel in there, and when I say damp, I mean squeeze it dry.
So do the CSAs tell you what you're getting each?
I've asked my farmer to tell me what I'm getting, so I prep.
Okay.
You know, and I can actually, in some cases, change my orders commercially. So if I have left over, I'm not duplicating. So it's this nice little bouquet of basil, right? And then I stick it in like so, and then I overtop it with a second. Now, if you had a Ziploc bag, you could get away without doing this, but I find that this method is the best because there's looseness and it can actually breathe a little bit. And you just set it in your fridge like that. Basil is incredibly delicate, and you can lose a bunch in an hour if you're not careful with it. So it's probably the most delicate herb out there, tarragon being second to that.
I've been
So-
to different CSAs, and I've been to ones where you go at a certain time and you can pick,
Yep.
one of this, one of that, and you get to pick a certain number, and they all have points. I also have one that I belong to in the Virgin Islands where you put in your preferences, they tell you what you're getting, and you have like 24 hours to change it up and swap things out.
Yeah.
So there's
So I think there's a variety.
Right, and there are a variety of different types of CSAs. So we talked about that last time. There's spend down CSAs where you pay $600 up front, you get a 10% discount with every purchase, but you go through using whatever online or however they want to do their orders, and you order what you want. That's one type of spend down. Some people really, really love that. I like somewhat of the mystery of it. Kind of just send me what you have, give me a heads up like 24 hours so I don't go to the store and buy something, or, but anyway, there's a lot of different types. This is, I had ordered 2 bunches of mint last week and a bunch of oregano. I've used this oregano, I've had it out 7 different times in the last 3 days. So I store these right in a bag. You can see sometimes when it touches the cold part of your fridge, that's what will happen. So if your fridge has a cold spot, you want to keep your herbs away from that. 40 to 45 degrees is where
Would you throw it out, or could you still eat?
I throw it out. You can eat it if you want, but for me, it's good. Doesn't look great, and
Does it still have the same flavor? or
no,
not?
it hasn't changed. It's been denatured. There's a different flavor to it.
Okay.
So it's not as good as this leaf here. Even though this one has a little bit of black on it, it's still not the same. But this is generally, pretty hardy. Now, if I was going to dry these, I wouldn't care, right? Because I'm going to dry them. But for the most part, this is kind of how I store bulk herbs like this, especially really large batch herbs. Kind of in a Ziploc. Again, you could throw in a little bit of paper towel with that. Nothing crazy, just a little bit of moisture. and you don't even have to. You just want to throw it in there, and just naturally it'll do its thing. Now I used to pre-COVID, and since I'm eating these, I used to blow into this and fill it. That's when I had a walk-in cooler and there's tons of refrigeration space, and you would just put these in fish buckets standing up, right? But now our mindset's changed quite a bit about, well, is that really something we want to do or not? So, anywho, I'll save those, wipe that down, and then we'll kind of make a couple things. I don't even know what time it is now. So 6:20.
Chef, I have a question. So
Yeah.
I've been, I always store my parsley in just a container of water on the counter.
Yep.
I clean it up good, get anything bad out. And the same with the basil, I've been doing that.
How long does it last?
It lasts for like 2 weeks.
Really?
Really long.
Wow.
The basil gets roots on it.
Is that your basil you're picking fresh from the garden?
Yeah.
Oh.
So I think some of that comes with how harshly you process your basil. Like, are you grabbing it and cutting it, right? So that's a big factor of that, how much damage is done to the vascular system of the vegetable. At the same point, water's good. It's aspirated. You can actually grow a vine. Charlie and I did that last year during COVID. We took purple basil and we grew fresh plants because it'll vine out. Parsley surprises me that it lasts that long like
Yeah,
that.
it lasts quite a while.
I mean, parsley's a very hardy, curly or flat. I mean, they're both very durable herbs.
Flat. I always
Yeah, I know. I don't like curly. Even though I have some curly. My CSA throws in curly parsley, and I'm like, yuck. But anyway, no offense to my CSA farmer. Anywho, yeah, that's that. So I don't know how you would look at any of this nutritionally from a storage standpoint. We obviously talked about the carrot, right? But I don't know if there's anything else that kind of challenges
I actually have a few
modern.
things
Yeah.
throughout. I've kind of taken some notes. So one thing I would say about soaking the lettuces, along with any other vegetable you're going to soak, from a nutritional standpoint, aside from the culinary standpoint, I would say to definitely not leave it in for longer than just a few seconds even. Give it a good scrub, rinse, but if you soak it, you are losing some of those water-soluble vitamins because they will, leach out into the water. Much like if you boil a vegetable, you're losing some of those water-soluble vitamins in the water. And unless you use the water, which in that case to wash vegetables, you're going to have dirt in there, so you're not going to use the water, definitely just rinse it off for a few minutes. We talked about the peeling, so it's best to leave them unpeeled, whole, and quickly rinsed. And that's all I would say about so far. And the storage, I would say, is generally pretty much what you have talked about so far. The only thing I would add is to keep the vegetables in their own section of the fridge because that'll prevent ripening quicker or more quickly. So that's pretty much everything I would add, and then I have more to say eventually.
So if you run out of room in your fridge, get rid of the condiments you haven't used in 2 years, right? Rearrange things.
I know it's hard to part with them, but
Yeah.
And if you put something in a crisper, I can't remember. I can never remember. You're supposed to have it more humid in the winter and change the humidity level in the summer.
Why does that matter in your refrigerator when it's
I don't
constant?
know, but
yeah, I was gonna say I feel like that wouldn't.
well, that was what I was told when I bought the refrigerator.
Probably doesn't matter.
Then where do you keep the humidity level?
I don't even look at
I
it.
don't even know what mine's at.
Okay.
In the Carriage House, food doesn't last long, so it just goes in, goes out, and and what's left is compost or.
So why do we have a humidity level?
You'd have to talk to an appliance store about that,
Okay.
and not me. In a walk-in cooler, we don't have those.
Okay.
We just don't. There's no such thing as that. So I don't understand that in a home kitchen.
Okay.
I don't really see how that makes a huge difference. I would imagine that there's some vegetables that give off moisture, more readily than others. But it's like a fruit and vegetable drawer. Why?
Right.
I mean, first of all, anything that in my house kitchen that goes in a drawer is guaranteed to never be used.
Right.
Like my family
Can't
does not
say
do
it.
drawers. If my family is watching, it's true. Own it. So that's the kiss of death. So I'd rather have a commercial refrigerator and just even glass so you see everything. As unappealing as that would be to my wife, that's what I would like.
Okay.
So in the packet, I've got obviously the cleaning and storage tips there. And I want to move into probably the most important thing for me is the meal planning side of this. So So this is really important for me. I just took a generic meal planning template and then put it in the packet. But this is where the rubber kind of meets the road here, and what are we going to do with all this stuff? So it's great to know that we can wash it and store it, but we've obviously got a timeline. I want to use these, unless I'm going to cook them or stew them, I want to use these within 24 to 48 hours, this Chard. If this basil was one that came in the thing, I want to use this as soon as possible. I want to get this into something so it has a life. Denaturing this actually preserves its viability. Turning this into a sauce preserves its viability for a future use. It's going to actually set in stone some of those flavors and colors and all that stuff. The cucumbers, we got about a half a week with those. If they're just out and about, sitting in your fridge every day, they're going to be softer and softer. So you want to make sure that they're wrapped in plastic or a glass container with a lid, or a plastic container with a lid. However you want to store them is your business, but we want to make sure that we're preserving moisture. So as they evaporate, because remember, refrigeration is evaporation. Think of sweating. You sweat and your skin evaporates that moisture. Refrigeration is the same thing, okay? The shishitos are pretty good. They're going to be good for the week. Again, you always want to make sure that they're not exposed to the open air. Every day in the refrigerator, things get softer and softer. So, and then the tomatoes, however you want to store them, I like room temperature. We want to make sure that we're using those. And if they're a little bit firm, then you've got a couple days on them. But generally, I'm looking at first half. As I triage this from my left to right, your right to my left, or to your left, because anyway. I'm working from this way, that way, okay? I want to use first, I want to use second, I could possibly use first, I could always pull one from these down, but this is my triage list, this is my hit list, this is where I want to spend my time up front, okay? Then later on, I want to be working on these ingredients, and again, it doesn't mean I can't employ a later used vegetable early on, and it doesn't mean I can't employ this down the road, but I might want to process this even further. I might want to steam this, or I might want to quickly blanch this so I'm not losing its vitality and its freshness. So I look at this and I just say, okay, here's 7 days. Quite honestly, we have, it depends on whether you're going to cook your CSA the night you get it, so you have 7 or 6 days to deal with this. And I like the last day to kind of be the cooler cleaning day. Whatever we have left, make a chopped salad, do what you got to do, make a soup, whatever that is. Huh?
Garbage gourmet.
Absolutely. So we look at these things, right? And so I start to say, okay, I've got some tomatoes. So I'm looking at a tomato salad, right? So I'm going to throw down here, I'm going to go on Monday. I'm going to do a tomato salad. So I'm just going to write Tom for tomato. I'm going to write plus gem. So I've got some gem lettuce, right? I might throw some basil. I have no idea what this is going to be yet. And I'm going to throw on a shishito. I don't even know how to spell that right now, so I don't want to write the wrong 4 letters.
I want to do a close up.
I just did that, right? So on, yeah, it's not going to matter for this purpose. I'm going to also throw in a little bit of carrot here because I want to peel a little bit of carrot with that. So there I'm on the next day. So after that, I might want to look around and I might want to say, okay, I'm going to use a little bit more of this gem lettuce. I've also got some chicken, right? So I might want to throw on some chicken and maybe a little vinaigrette. So plus an herb vinaigrette, so an H vinaigrette. And this is what I do every day as a chef. I go through, I kind of make something up and just kind of go with that. I throw things on the wall and what sticks, and what doesn't. So I cook for my family. They like it. Great. They don't. They didn't have to cook it and they should just be quiet and enjoy it, right?
Right.
I mean, that's just my point of view, right? Wednesday, I'm at the end of my tomato. I might want to make a gazpacho, right? Because now I can take my gazpacho, I can take my tomato, I can take my cucumber, my pepper, my garlic, salt, some vinegar, olive oil, anything that's left over. I can throw a lot of things in that gazpacho, right? So I'm going to go gazpacho. Down the road here on the carrots, I might want to do grilled steak. And again, we're not going to grill a steak today. plus maybe braised carrots, right? Or a carrot salad. I'm just thinking, you know, the weather might turn cold Thursday, might. So braised carrots. And by braising, we keep the nutrients inside, right? We're going to use that liquid to our advantage, right? And that's just kind of how I go through and process a menu. And we don't have to make a full 7-day menu prep. But there are a couple things that I want to do here. And I did do, I do have some product done ahead of time. I've got an Andalusian Gazpacho here that I made yesterday with some tomatoes. This was stale bread, tomatoes, salt, olive oil, a little bit of water, red wine vinegar. It's an absolutely wonderful soup. Very clear. It's just a blender soup, nothing crazy. It's a wonderful, wonderful soup.
Did you use a recipe, or do you have a recipe?
It's in the packet.
Oh, it is.
How about that?
I hadn't looked at it. That's phenomenal.
It
That's
is.
great, yeah.
Yeah.
That recipe's in it?
Yep. So we're going to portion this out for those in live presence here, right?
Oh yeah.
Look at that. It's an Andalusian Gazpacho, which is a mountain gazpacho, and it was designed to use up leftover bread and older tomatoes. So it's a fantastic CSA recipe here. So I'm going to get rid of this water.
How do you pronounce that word?
Salmorejo. Like San Jose Drive, but not at all like that.
Right.
So you have to have stale bread but non-moldy bread.
Right. I generally don't eat moldy bread.
I really
Right.
hope you don't use the moldy bread.
But that's up to you. I mean,
I haven't had any bread in a while.
it's how you roll, Sharon.
Nope,
It's
no
good.
bread.
All right, so you know that's kind of my thing here. So I'm going to pull out some of this gem lettuce, and I'm just going to kind of cook a little impromptu here. So with this gem lettuce, I'll be looking at. So this is just an herb marinated chicken breast. There is no recipe for this. You could just take olive oil and herbs and cook it up. But I'll be looking at something simple like that. For me, that's the stuff that makes my world go round. If you want something more than that, then by all means.
Herb marinated and grilled? Is it grilled?
I just did it in a saute pan personally, but then you could go like that, and all of a sudden now you get the best of both worlds, right? So now, right, we could even go further than that. We could say that basil was one of the herbs that we did. So now we can take a leaf of basil and go like so, right? And then we could even do a little bit of salt and a little bit of olive oil. But now, if I could have that platter right there. Thank you. Right? And you just do like a little meze plate. So you're just getting rid of things, right? That could be leftover rotisserie chicken.
That looks
Right?
really neat. That doesn't look messy.
Nice. Boom.
Took me a second.
Right? So I can do up a couple of those. That's not a big deal. Taking some outer leaf, you get a little gem lettuce, you got a little basil, you got a piece of chicken. I'll sauce that at the end, right? So we'll just keep going like that. What, there's 5-6 people here?
See, I'd like a little shrimp salad on there.
Well, that's great. You know, it's. Did you get shrimp in your CSA?
No.
No, I
If you
know.
don't get chicken in yours.
I personally don't like shrimp, so shrimp and I have spent a lot of time together, and I'm pretty done with shrimp in
How
my
about a little
lifetime.
tofu salad?
I'm good with tofu too. So, nothing against tofu, but I've seen my fair share.
Curry chicken salad would be nice in there.
Put it in your order.
That's it. Giuseppe's is right down the street. You may get some. So again, this is how I eat tacos now. I don't do tortilla shells anymore. I use lettuce, and I like steak tacos over the ground beef tacos, and you know.
I find it so much more appetizing when you have that crunch on the outside.
Yeah, and
I
the
love
flavor.
it.
So that could have been cilantro if we were talking,
Yeah.
tacos or something like that. And then again, I'm pulling right out of the bag. I'm using this stuff.
Garnish with some of the carrot fronds.
You could too, yep.
True.
Anything you want. I mean, that's the beauty of this is you're taking things that you have on hand, and using them in a way that you might not have, or just in a way that combines. And again, that book, Culinary Artistry, really, you know, if we took Radicchio and we said what goes well with Radicchio, considering it's a Mediterranean lettuce variety, most things in the Italian portfolio do very well with that, right? So 2, 4, 6, 7, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, one shot.
Well, I don't eat meat, so
Well, then I'll just give you
I mean, I
a
don't
big
eat chicken.
Radicchio cup with.
I'll just have
You
my
got
ve-
some shrimp on you?
I
I'll
don't
have my
have shrimp.
vegetarian one.
There'll be
Charlie and
carrot
I
in it
live
for
vegetarian.
carrot meat.
Yeah.
I'll carrot greens on mine.
Yeah. Anyway, so when I'm done with this now, I just take, gently roll it back up, and I put it back in the bag, like so. I don't even know if that was the same bag. It was the same bag. Right? So boom. So that's easy. And then it goes back in the cooler. Again, my process. Take it, fold it down, and then store it over enclosed. Nice, tucked, good, like a swaddled kid. Swaddling. I learned a lot about food from swaddling my son. So. And that's up there from there. So anyway, that's one dish, right? And if I wanted to go really crazy, I could take some of this fantastic Sal
Oh, yeah,
Morejo.
that would be great on mine.
This is so funny.
Hey, for the next CSA class, you're gonna have to put your order in ahead of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't want us to wait till the end to try this, do you? Because I'm afraid
I do now. Yep.
that stuff will wilt or.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And nutritionally, it's better to eat it right
evaporate.
as soon as possible. Yeah.
I was gonna pass it,
Yeah.
We don't want Dan to be drooling waiting either.
but now we'll wait. And then just a little bit of pepper. How do I do that? I don't even know how to operate this.
You're going to take the cover off.
Cover's off.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you know what?
You didn't take the seal off.
I didn't take the factory seal off. So this is a blend of peppercorns, which is why I bought it, instead of just black peppercorns, which my pepper mill has.
A little trick that I've done.
And I missed one.
Whoops. A little trick I've done with those types of pepper mills, if I don't want to do it over something that's steaming, I'll turn it upside down with the cover on it
Yep.
and do it into the cover and then just dump it.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I actually grind pepper in a coffee grinder at the Carriage House, and I use that way. It works out really, really well. So I missed one of these little sandwiches.
I think that one's Sharon's
Probably
too.
mine, right?
Yeah.
No, I got hers.
So you can use your peppers in your backyard burger you have highlighted here this month.
Oh, an HGL magazine. Yeah, that's a good burger.
That's I picked it up in the
Here. Oh, good. I forgot to bring.
So this is it, just a simple creation, day one, things that you might have in your cooler, nothing crazy.
Nice. I like
Yeah,
Beautiful,
yeah, go on,
chef.
pass it around, go for it. Sharon's obviously no meat. I did not plan on Charlie. Sorry, Charlie.
No worries.
But you're there. You just take the meat off. Donate it to Dan for a worthy cause.
Right there. You got a little dollop.
Darlene, take her picture first. Thank you. Lovely.
Careful.
So that was Tuesday's dinner we just did. So how quick was that, right? Some leftover stuff. That could have been seared salmon. It could have been shrimp. It could have been anything, right? It's, but again, it's just, you're using the greens as a wrap and the functionality of this.
Great.
Oh, I don't get one. I did all
Do you
that
want
work
one
and I
right
don't
now?
get one.
I thought you wanted
I'll
to
take
wait.
the loose one. No, I'll do it now. It's fine.
Well, I might as well have mine now too.
I'm good.
I guess.
Very good. Very good.
So 3 or 4 of those per person, and you have dinner. Really quick, really easy, nothing complicated. All right. The other thing I did this last time. I love the whole fresh tomato concept. I gave you a recipe for a fresh tomato sauce, but I'm also going to show you how easy it is to just kind of make a tomato salad with pasta. And we don't need to have all of that pasta. Oh, what the hell. We'll do it all. You guys are going to be hungry.
It's going to require bigger lettuce cups.
No, this is going to be done on a table. So I'm going to take some nice olive oil. If sunflower seed oil is local from Weber Rock Farm, I love that concept. So a couple tablespoons, probably 3 or 4 maybe, for everybody here.
Is this recipe in here?
No, this is just a pre-handed recipe.
Okay.
There is a recipe for tomato sauce, but we did that last time, and since the population here was the same, I'm going to add a little bit of Malden sea salt. This is a really nice flake salt. Looks like snow. That's a really beautiful salt.
Kind of.
From Malden sea salt. Yep. I'm going to take a tomato. We've already cleaned this, so now I'm going to dice up a bunch of fresh tomato in here. So the way that I do this is I go to the core end first, and I set that one aside. And now I want about a 1/4 inch to a 1/3 of an inch dice, and I slice everyone down the same thickness, moving my knife forwards and backwards as I go. Okay.
So Curtis, I did just confirm too with Kim, and she is going to share the last class
Okay.
recipe booklet as well.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. There's some other stuff in there.
If you didn't join it and you want to make the tomato sauce,
Yeah,
not
great.
this. So yeah.
So here we go. I'm just going to go ahead and dice. So the one thing I do believe that matters the most for me is to cleanly cut and dice food, because it looks better and a lot of things just kind of go bad. So not all tomato product has to be cooked, right? We had this conversation earlier, but this is a fresh salad. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to cut around. Even if these aren't perfectly sized, I'm going to cut around and get rid of that core. And then I want to add a little bit of basil to that. If I add flat leaf parsley, we can add a couple carrot fronds to this, but I want to keep this pretty Mediterranean here. I don't care if it's a little bit bruised, it's not going to matter to me. And again, I think we focus too much on pretty food, right? And again, I get it, you're paying for it, but at the same point, there's nothing wrong with that piece. So I line all of my basil up, and I'm going to do a chiffonade. So I'm making this like one big fat cigar roll. And I'm going to take it and I'm going to gently roll it. I'm going to slice those little stem ends off, and then I'm going to slice. You can either go forwards or backwards or both, and I'm not pressing down, I'm slicing. I'm not pushing down, so please watch. There's very little compression of that, and so we're not releasing a lot of the oils and causing it to bruise. Like so. And then I'll take a cucumber. Now, argue with me all you want. Bring it
How
on.
dare you?
Bring it on. I'm ready for it. I got broad shoulders.
We can eat the strips that you take
You
off.
can
I
if
do.
you
I
want.
love doing that. I think they taste like better.
It's the buffet.
Like compost. We love them.
Yeah.
My compost has chicken manure. We're all set. So what I do too is you can, again, it goes back to, what we're approaching this from a couple different scenarios. You can use these as is, use those seeds, but a lot of times I come in with my knife and I get rid of that seed pod. Now you can eat the seed pod.
That's what I do.
I was gonna say let me.
It's
That's
beautiful.
what I do.
You can add it to a vinaigrette. It's fine. We'll actually add that to an herb vinaigrette. But for this salad here, I want to get rid of that because as soon as I salt that, that moisture is going to come out and it's going to sog. So we're coming at this from lots of different angles. So I'm going to save that here. For a vinaigrette. Okay? Now here, you can go straight and get cuts like that. Or you can turn your, and you can get a bias cut. So there's a little bit more surface area, a little bit more showmanship of the knife. And you can line these up and offset them and do all of them at once. And then you could add, whatever you want. It's really up to you. A little bit of pepper. I thought I was being safe and bringing this instead of my big pepper mill, but I missed my pepper mill already. Okay, a little bit of salt, that nice Malden salt. Now, I have a different approach to bacon. I use prosciutto, and I roast it in the oven.
How am I going to eat that now?
Well, we're going to top it on demand, okay? So, but as I would say for most people, right, then you can top it with prosciutto, crisp prosciutto. It makes these nice little chips. Not for everybody, though. Nothing wrong with that. And then a little bit of fresh lemon juice. And this one, yes, you are going to win. Ooh. So the reason we're waiting is I salted the tomatoes and I want the juice to come out of the tomato a little bit. And that takes time.
You salted the tomato?
I salted the salad, and so the salt on the chopped tomato is going to pull out some of those flavors, and that's what we're going to wait on, okay? Now I could add some chard to that. I could also slice up some shishitos.
No Parmesan cheese?
None today.
Okay.
Are they pretty hot?
They can be, yeah. I think 1 in 10 is supposed to be hot.
And what about the difference between the red one and the green?
No idea.
Those.
This isn't like color fear factor or anything like that. Yeah?
What you
Those
do in
aren't hot.
CSA? No? Okay.
I think he left the seeds in there.
I know. I was just thinking that.
You guys have a lot of demands. I'm just
Keep you on your toes.
All right, so there's that. And I'll take that. So, I'm just going to show you how to make a vinaigrette really quick. And you can do this with a variety of different things. We obviously put in some cucumber here. I'm going to throw in a couple leaves of basil. Here's a great chance to kind of use the non-prime leaves. Also, don't be afraid to put a couple stems in there. It's not going to matter much. We just want to get it used up. Okay, so I'm going to do a little basil and carrot top vinaigrette. We're actually not going to put carrot top, the comedian, in here. We're going to put carrot tops in here. See, I tried to be a comedian. It's kind of left that way. This is what I do for a living. I make vinaigrettes and nut jokes. So we've got that in there.
So basil, carrot tops, and cucumber.
I have those cucumber seeds in there. And then the last thing I'm going to do, I'm going to add a little bit of mint as well. And there is a recipe for herb vinaigrette in your packet. You can use whatever herbs and combination of stuff you want. And if you do have a CSA, everybody knows the reality. Sometimes you got to use some things up, right? So this is a great kind of impromptu way of getting things done. And sometimes, you know, you're buying from a farmer, and sometimes they just, you know, some of these base ends here that you just, it's going to look beautiful in the end, but you just have to learn to process it. And I love mason jars. Mason jars are my new thing.
So do I, see?
Oh yeah, I use them all the time. So we're going to do a little bit of olive oil. About a cup. There are measuring markers on the mason jars, which is also another reason I love these things. Okay, we're going to do that. We're going to do a little bit of lemon juice.
Now, sometimes you say, don't worry about using a really good olive oil for this, or do use.
I would not use extra virgin olive oil for this, or I would not use a really fancy one.
Okay.
I'm going to take and add a little bit of the rind, the lemon rind to that, just for some added zest and flavor, and actually a little bit of bitterness, because that basil is pretty sweet. And then probably a little bit of pepper. So 4 days later. Some salt.
In fact, it smells good.
Yeah,
It does smell good.
it smells amazing.
Whoa, hey.
Escapee.
It's a jumping garlic. And then we're ready to go. So I'm going to take my boat motor here. So you can let this run for as long or as little as you want. You just turn it on an angle. So I'm pushing down on it, and it's turned on an angle. It'll form its own vortex and just kind of turn over on itself. I don't generally spend a lot of money on an immersion blender. This is a $20 immersion blender. Vitamix makes a handheld one, but the longer you run this, the warmer your vinaigrette gets. So just know that. Warmer.
Warmer?
Friction. Pardon me? Yeah. So if you run that for a little bit, you can actually set the pigment on the herb. So if you used extra virgin olive oil, the flavor would be incredibly strong. It would be almost off-putting in my mind.
Because it would have that peppery finish.
Right, and some are really, really strong,
Yeah.
and some aren't. So,
What about avocado oil?
yeah, it's a pretty mild oil. So what I'm expecting out of this is some pretty heavy olive oil type flavor, herbs mixed with a little bit of bitterness, and a little bit of cucumber. I actually think that's kind of bitter. So I would go a little bit more salt, because salt fights bitter. And it needs something sweet, like a honey or something.
Maple syrup.
Maple syrup. I don't have anything sweet, so. But anyway,
I'm sure Dan must have something.
We'll see what he's got. I didn't bring any sugar. I thought about bringing sugar, and I said, no, I got this one.
We had sugar in the bulk bin, I think.
Carrot juice. You just want anything to juice it.
Right. We could put a carrot in there. That would be
That's
absolutely
what I was
perfect.
thinking.
But I don't think my
Carrot.
mixer would do that.
The carrot
Look at
would be
this.
sweet.
That's all right. We'll make that happen. Maybe.
It's like the magic kitchen.
Northern Orchards.
Bug.
That is a good plug. Whoa, hey. It's a family show. Let's keep it clean.
I wonder if Alan is watching.
He is. Told me to smile earlier.
No questions there, Charlie, from the audience?
Doesn't look like it.
Hey, we don't have any questions, do we?
Nope, the summary said the salad looks so good.
One thing though is they always say eat the colors of the rainbow, and last time and this time, we pretty much
Everything's
have our red, orange, yellow, green,
absolutely.
purple.
Oh yeah.
We even got the purplish in the
Yeah.
ribs and
Yes, and Chard, Radicchio,
and the Radicchio, yeah.
So again, I think this kind of pushes. You're making use of something, and you know, is that your traditional French vinaigrette? No, but add a little Dijon mustard in there, and it comes pretty close to that. I think that's the acidity kind of note that's missing at this point in time. Is that so? So again, you've got salad. If you want to top it with a little vinaigrette, you can. And then the very last thing I'm going to make is this salmorejo. I want to just show you how to plate this. I got it. You can go ahead. I'm going to plate this up. I'll show you one. And where did we put those containers? I'll show you how I set one up. And then I'm going to turn it over to Barrett for a while and talk about nutrition. So I made this yesterday, so it needs to be stirred up. And this is a bread and tomato soup. No other thickeners. It's raw. It's vegan. Right? Because bread is vegan, right? Correct me?
Yeah, it should be.
Yep. Until I do some things to it. Which is going to be, I'm going to hit it with, and we don't have to have this when I'm putting this on because it's how I designed it. Right? A little bit of prosciutto. A touch more of a nicer olive oil. And that's how I generally serve this soup. Like so. Boom. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Barrett. Barrett's got some notes. She also has a piece in your handouts, in the very back of it, on the nutritional notes. So have at it, Barrett.
So there are just a few key points that I think we should definitely take out of this. I think definitely when you first get them, they are going to have the highest nutrient content, so it's best to eat them as soon as possible. And what did you say refrigeration is? Evaporation. Yeah, and that goes for the nutrients as well. The nutrients will the nutrients will decline rapidly once they're in the refrigerator, so it's best to use them as fresh and as soon as you can. And the same goes for cooking time. The longer the cooking time, the more decrease of nutrients. So I did write up a little thing in here about all the different ways and beneficial ways to cook your veggies. Steaming them will be the best way because you don't lose any of those water-soluble vitamins that locks in the vitamin C. Again, boiling will be the greatest loss. And then I did put in a little piece of microwaving, which definitely can be controversial, but it has actually been found to preserve antioxidants in things like garlic and onion, which is really interesting. And on the back here, there are a few other ones. Things like sauteing and stir frying, like we mentioned with the rainbow chard. That is great because you end up using the juices, and even though you do lose some water-soluble vitamins out of the vegetable, you use the juices, so you end up consuming them anyway. Frying can also preserve the water-soluble vitamins, but then they have aldehydes, so it's important to look out for those. And then baking, of course, is a longer, more extensive cooking process, so you will lose more nutrients in there. And at the end, I just put a few tips. So again, use the juices from the pan. Those are going to have those lost nutrients. Cook the veggies for the least amount of time as possible. Enjoy the foods whole because it'll, again, lock in those water-soluble vitamins. And then consume them within a day or so. And the vitamin C content can decrease at least up to 60% within the first day. So yeah, those statistics are pretty crazy to hear, but it definitely makes you want to use your veggies.
Within from picking, from harvesting.
I would say within the time that you get it in your fridge.
Okay.
What's that?
What vegetables?
The loss?
Yeah, the vitamin C loss.
So Barrett, you had mentioned a couple times now about consuming the vegetables whole.
Yep.
How much would you lose? Let's go back to the carrot scenario. I mean, it's much nicer to have a carrot in a salad.
I agree. Yeah.
Chopped up. And so if you're storing it, unpeeled, and you pull it out, how much would you really lose if you're just chopping it up to put in the salad and eating it at that point, as opposed to chopping it when you get it and storing it?
I would say because refrigeration is evaporation, if it's chopped up in the fridge, there's a higher chance that there's going to be less hydration by the time you chop it up and put it in your salad, or by the time you put it in your salad. But if it's whole and then you take it out, chop it up, that's been locked in, so the hydration is still in there, and then you chop it up, put it in your salad, and you still have those water-soluble vitamins.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I think that's all that I have to say.
So when I do a baked potato, I oil it and then put it in the oven. Is that the same as when you're saying cooking it in hot oil, in oil outside?
That one was for frying. I think what you're talking about would be more under the baking category.
Oh, I didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Frying, I would say, would be when it's submerged in the hot oil. Yeah, with that, you definitely would not have as many chance of aldehydes at all, I would say.
Are we done?
Right down.
We're done. Awesome. Thank you, Barrett. I added a shishito pepper to this one, so there's two vegetarians with us. This soup is great. It literally is. As you'll see in the recipe, it's a loaf of bread, right? So I actually use Red Oak Food Company. I think you sell Red Oak, don't you?
We do indeed.
So this is Red Oak Food Company's mini bowl. Really nice structured bread. Great crumb to it.
Yeah.
Really beautiful loaf of bread. So I took this, I put it in a bowl, I cubed it up obviously. I used the Vitamix blender, so that's it's a high-end blender, but you could use a blender, it just takes longer. And I put olive oil and red wine vinegar and salt on that. Then I put all my tomatoes on top of that, and I let that sit room temperature for about 4 hours. So all those juices from the tomatoes soaked up, and then I gave that a stir a couple times over, and then I just mass blended this. It was great. It's such a great soup.
Would this be a good place, this recipe be a good place to use the tomatoes that maybe have some
Couple scars.
blemishes,
Yep.
some softness? Some
Yep, I
that
took
would
some,
normally
in my CSA I had some Oxheart tomatoes that I got, and I had some green zebras. The green zebras were a little bit funky in the sense they had a lot of scarring on them. So I trimmed out what I needed to, and there was a couple blemishes that caused some soft spots, cut those out, and then I threw the rest of the green tomatoes. So it's a great use for a lot of different things. You know, if you want to add basil in here, you can, but that recipe is spot on the money. It works every single time. So,
How much do different kinds of bread? Have you used different kinds of bread?
yeah, I've used commercial baguette before. I think they make a difference in terms of the overall taste, so there's a little bit more tanginess from this, simply because of the flavor notes of the bread itself. And you can smell the fermentation, and it's very acidic. I don't want to say like San Francisco sourdough. It's not that harsh. It doesn't give you that same kind of jaw-breaking component, but it definitely you can taste the acidity of the bread in that soup.
What's the name of the
So,
bread again?
It's Red Oak Food Company's Boule, B-O-U-L-E.
So, getting back to, I'm trying to think for the clientele we're trying to target. Plain old baguette, Italian
Ritz
loaf
Cracker Works.
bread.
Ritz Cracker will work. All bread.
But that bread, so it's starting to, it's getting to the point where it's getting hard. Can we store it in the freezer?
Put it in a
Pull it
plastic
out?
bag. It's going to give off. It's going to aspirate, right? It's going to breathe. And when you put that bag over it, so you can take a really hard loaf of bread and you could seal it up like that. Tomorrow morning, it'll be much softer. Okay? So it's preservation. And so this whole soup is based on lengthening fresher foods, right? So Andalusian Gazpacho, Salmorejo, is around using bread that is too old to eat as bread. You soak it up with water and salt and things like that. So it's different than a traditional Latin American gazpacho. So, anywho, that's my last dish. Feel free, we got that vinaigrette down there. You can put it on your salad. You can do what you want with it. You can taste it. Have at it. I don't know if there's any questions from the virtual audience or not, but if not, thank you for joining.
Well, thank you for this. Everything looks delicious, so we're definitely excited to dive in and try it. Thank you again, Dan, for having us. I'll let you have the last word too, if you'd like. But in the meantime, we really love doing this, so if anybody wants more of this type of activity, give us thoughts, give us feedback. Follow us on Facebook, 848DK Action, and we've got more information on our website. And definitely our fair food pricing program is new, so if you are interested in participating, if your family needs help eating and affording local foods, or if you can afford to support it and want to donate, all that information is on our website. So thank you for having us. And Dan.
Awesome, Kim. Thank you very much. Chef Curtiss, as always, and Barrett, thank you for presentation, for tying the pieces together. And I have to agree with you. I think adding in the nutrition part, I mean, we've always discussed it, and touched on it, but to add it into the big part of this programming is key. So again, to reiterate what Kim said, because this is very important, fair food pricing, not going to be for everybody, but I would say follow what ADK Action does on Facebook, follow what Keysville Pharmacy does on Facebook in regards to fair food pricing, and share it. We all know that Facebook, the biggest piece of social media is the sharing, and this is something good and worth sharing. So we ask that you do that so people who really need the help, who really could use to have healthier food options, will get that opportunity. So thanks again to everyone. Thanks for participating. This will be available beyond right now to go back and view and to look. And if you need anything, reach out to any of our Facebook pages and we will get back to you. Thank you.
And if you have a question on the recipes or anything that I talked about or Barrett talked about, reach out to Carriage House Cooking School and we'll get you an answer. Okay?
Thank you.
Cheers.
Woohoo.